I've been reading a book titled Uncertainty: The Wisdom and Wonder of Being Unsure. And the author says in this age of asking Google and the others, you know who they are, we've come to view uncertainty as a threat rather than a challenge. And I think that's where gardening comes in. It's one of the few pastimes where nothing is guaranteed, and seed starting and planting are the first step in this uncertain process. Yes, knowledge and a little skill can help, but even that does not guarantee a harvest. So, this episode is focused on accepting the challenge of starting and planting my seeds for the next growing season. Like most of the country, northern Florida went through a couple of below freezing days. But now that the weather has warmed up, my first step is to remove the mini greenhouse tops to check the progress of the seeds that have already been planted. As you can see under the mini greenhouses, the collards, cabbage, and kohlrabi seeds have come up and are growing nicely despite the cold weather. The cold did kill the tops of my bell peppers, but the roots are still alive, so they should start growing again when the weather heats up. The next goal is to set in bush beans that I had started in the rotisserie containers. I made a point of spreading the bush beans around as an ongoing soil fixer, in addition to producing a crop. A few of you had concerns about root disturbance for the beans, but as you can see, they made the transition without a problem. However, I do think trying to move well-established bean plants might prove a problem. My next step was to begin to thin the cabbage and kohlrabi. Because the kohlrabi will create a bulb, I tried to space them to allow for growth and also to leave room for other companion plants to make maximum use of my small space. Once the cabbage and kohlrabi had been thinned, this section of the long bed looks very different. Before moving on to the second bed, I decided to put down the free pine needles I found a few months ago. Creating a walking path will save me the task of mowing in between the beds once grass starts growing. And of course, Sunny Girl had to nosy around and claim a spot. With that done, I could move on to the second bed. I put bush beans along with the strawberries so they will provide a little shade as well as nitrogen for the soil once everything is growing. I plan to come back later and interplant onions to ward off snails, but right now starting the beans is more important. To finish off, I'm planting sunflower seeds set out around the beds for pollinators. All of that done for the long beds, I could give everything a good drink of water to get settled in before moving on to the small beds. Last fall, I put in quinoa from some old seeds along with sweet peas to fix the soil, and it was time to harvest the quinoa for a newer batch of seeds so I could later plant corn. I got a lot from a few seeds. Once the quinoa was harvested and hung, I was ready to call it a day. The next day, it was a little cooler, but I wanted to put in a higher border for the bed near the sitting patio so I could plant herbs with flowers, sort of like a mini raised bed. All I needed to do was take the current measurements and then make the new border. I started with a 6-inch board and did my measurements. And then cut it in half on the bandsaw to create the sides that would be 3 inches high and allow me to use only one board to create the new border. To make sure the wood held together well, I wanted to put in braces on each end so the screws could grip, and marked off the height I needed. Then cut the 4 braces to attach them to the sides. And if you paid close attention, you'll see why, when using a nail gun, you never put your fingers near where you're nailing, because sometimes the nail will twist and come out the side, which is very painful. I knew about it, but learned it the hard way. And on to doing the much-hated pre-drilling of pilot holes. Followed by adding the screws to complete the new border. Once that was done, I had to remove the old border so I could install the new one. After some adjustments, yes, a mallet was involved, I could look forward to growing herbs and flowers near the patio. And my final task was beginning my tomato starts. I decided to try the 2-cup method after watching videos where people said it created hardier tomato plants. I like these dollar store cups because the tag said they were BPA free. I used a hot wood burning tool to create the bottom holes. Put in potting soil from some old pots for the top cup. Set up the bottom cups with little cups to hold the first above the water. And then added my seeds, followed by spraying an aloe vera starting mixture I created. And now we wait. As I said in the beginning, everything I did, I can't be certain that it will work out. But I'm willing to challenge the uncertainty, and I hope you'll return to challenge it as well. See you next time.